All right, it's the NFL Week 13 spread picks. A couple things I want to say before we dive into these games. First, in regards to Week 12, unfortunately, I was unable to get a video up for that week. I was having technical difficulties at the home, and ultimately there was just nothing I could do about it. We did go 3-1 in Week 12. Cash with the Raiders, cash with the Bengals, cash with the Jets. Lost that Patriots game on Thanksgiving. I'm still pretty sick about that game. That was a game the Patriots were supposed to take care of. But 3-1 in Week 12, starting to catch momentum here in the NFL season just at the perfect time. We're going to streak into the playoffs. And honestly, I feel like this is where I function best when I have a lot of data, when we've seen teams in every scenario. Every team has pretty much been a dog. Every team has been a favorite. Every team has been at home, on the road, played against their division, played out of division, out of conference. So once we start to see this and once we get the data on these teams and we see all the trends unfolding, I feel really good about my ability to pick and choose what trends to ride with and what trends are phony and to just not pay attention to or to go against. So, yeah, I wanted to say that real quick about Week 12. And also in regards to the Thursday night game, if I have a play on Thursday night, I will put this video out before the Thursday night game. But I had nothing this past Thursday night game. It was the Bills and the Patriots. And with that game, I was leaning Bills, but I just wasn't confident in going against the Patriots at home in a division game, getting a ton of points as a home dog. We know what Belichick does in that scenario. And ultimately, the Patriots just aren't taking care of business. It's really unfortunate what they did against Minnesota. It's really unfortunate. I was leaning Bills, but it was unfortunate to see the Patriots go out the way that they did against the Bills on Thursday night. It's just, I'm losing a lot of respect for them and how I view them as an organization and as a team. They just, so many dumb penalties, bad special teams, like, not running the ball effectively. It's pretty lackluster. But anyway, let's get into these games, and enough with that. First game of the week, it's the New York Jets at the Minnesota Vikings, and this is the first money play of the week. We got the Jets +3. The Jets are in a real similar spot to the Patriots versus the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings, yeah, they're 9-2, but you got to look a little deeper than their record. They haven't really been dominating this season. Their defense is horrible. It's still Kirk Cousins, and if you get a great pass rush on him, you can bother him and he can unravel. The New York Jets, if you just take all the names off the jerseys and Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins and you look at how the players are actually playing, the New York Jets, all the DVOA stats and everything you can pull up points towards the Jets being the better team. And the Jets are just so good defensively and they match up so well with this Vikings team. The only concern that you have when you're betting the Jets in this spot is, hey, Mike White's the quarterback. But Mike White looked very good against the Bears last week. I know that's the Bears, but he looked very good. The Jets have been able to win games with Zach Wilson at quarterback, and he was stinking it up. So I don't see why they can't win with Mike White at quarterback. Just by default, getting rid of Zach Wilson is a plus at quarterback. Your team's going to play better if you have somebody else in there besides Zach Wilson. And the guys are balling out, and they're playing with heart. And Salah has a good pulse on this locker room, and he has all the guys buying in. Once he put Mike White in, it's like these guys are buying into that, and they want to play hard for him. And like I said, Mike White's just a better quarterback than Zach Wilson. So are the Jets going to win this game? Is Mike White going to throw for 400 yards? I'm not saying all that, but I'm saying you're getting +3 with a team that matches up very well, with a team that I feel like is underrated versus a team that's been overrated. We saw what the Patriots did on Thanksgiving against the Vikings. The Patriots should have won that game. A couple things didn't go their way. They weren't playing the smartest brand of football. And I suspect that the Jets are going to come in here in a similar situation to the Pats and just take care of business this time. I have a hard time believing that Minnesota, in these back-to-back tough spots against the Patriots and then Jets, I have a hard time believing that they're just going to go 2-0. And there are teams that sometimes just like have that magic carpet ride where they're just defying all odds, but I'm going to bet against those odds. I have to take those odds is what I'm trying to say every single time. Like, I have to bet the Patriots against the Vikings. I have to bet the Jets against the Vikings. It's just the smart side. And in the long run, it's going to pay off taking this type of bet. So hopefully it cashes here. It should cash here. The Patriots bet should have cashed. And I really like the Jets in this spot. Give me the Jets +3. As you can see with the odds, it's -115. It's probably going to move down to +2.5. There's some sharp books that already have it at 2.5. So it's going to go down to 2.5. So get a 3 while you can. Next game, we got the Denver Broncos at the Baltimore Ravens. The Broncos are plus 9.5 on the road. Not a lot to say about this game. I'm not going to waste anybody's time. The Denver Broncos are getting a ton of points. Really good defense. You see the total super low, so maybe Denver can cover by just making this game really ugly and keeping it low scoring. We saw that Carolina was able to cover against the Ravens by keeping it low scoring and keeping it ugly. The Ravens have been really lackluster this year, and I'm waiting for the Ravens to have a moment where they just like show everybody who they are and just completely dominate a game. It feels like it hasn't happened this season. They haven't had really like a stand-up moment where they've just looked incredible. Yeah, they're just lackluster. Like the Ravens are the definition of lackluster at this point, and I have to almost see it to believe it. I want to pick this team to make like a magic carpet ride to the Super Bowl or something like that, but I just don't see it right now because they're not giving me anything to work with. Like at best, they have like a good quarter or a good half, but they're just not consistent. They're just not consistent. So with this game, I don't know what to do. Next game, we got the Washington Commanders at the New York Giants. The Giants are +2 at home, a home dog. I love taking home dogs, but this is a real tough spot. You got to ask yourself, why are the Washington Commanders favored against the team in their division that has a better record than them? And ultimately, it's because the Commanders are trending upwards while the Giants are kind of tanking. And I think everybody sees that. The Commanders are playing a much better brand of football at this point in the season. But I don't really want to take Taylor Heineke on the road as a favorite. So ultimately, this game is a no touch for me. If the Giants have anything left, if the Giants have anything left in the tank, if Saquon Barkley has anything left, he's been banged up. If Daniel Jones, if Daboll, if they could scheme up anything, it's going to be in this game, in an in-division game as a home dog. Your last chance to really step up and try to save your season. It's going to be like a now or never type of spot. So I don't want to fade the Giants in here, but the line points towards this being a Commanders spot, and the Commanders have all the momentum in the world, and I wouldn't really want to get in front of them here either. So very, very tough game. Next up, we got the Tennessee Titans at the Philadelphia Eagles. The Titans are +4.5. In this game, everybody's going to want to take the Titans. I can't knock you for it. Vrabel as a dog, +4.5, good amount of points. They're coming off of a loss. Like, I could go on and on. But the Philadelphia Eagles score a lot at home. They have a really effective offense, and they can put up points at home. They've been a juggernaut, especially in Philadelphia. And it's hard to imagine Ryan Tannehill is going to go in there and be able to keep up with the scoring by like slinging it versus their secondary. Like Philadelphia has a really good secondary. I could see Tannehill throwing a couple picks on the road. You guys know we tried to fade Tannehill when he was going up against Green Bay, and he bought out in that road game. I don't see him having another good road game, especially against this Philadelphia team. You know, like this line opened up at like 6.5, 7. And I think that just shows what Vegas thinks about the Eagles compared to the Titans. Like, their records are pretty comparable. The Titans have won a ton of games this season, but Vegas doesn't care. They put out a big spread, and it's getting, pounded down to 4.5 now. Everybody's taking the Titans. And I think at 4.5, the value is actually with the Eagles. At under a touchdown, at under 6, the value is actually with the Eagles. And if there's going to be another game that I add, right now I have 2 official plays. I already gave you guys the Jets. But if I'm going to add another play, it's probably going to be the Eagles. Like, if I were to add another play. And we'll see if I end up getting there. I still got to think about it a little bit and go through it one more time. But the Eagles are just the better team. And they're at home, and the line's not too big. Like, I know Derrick Henry's going to run the ball well, and the Eagles aren't the best run defense, but you can only do so much with just your running back when you have no pass game. So heavy lean to the Eagles. I know I'm the only person in the world who probably likes the Eagles this week. I'm not going to talk anybody off of taking the Titans. I don't love the Eagles enough right now to talk anybody off of taking the Titans. But the Eagles are the play for me. I know that goes against conventional wisdom, but that's just how I see it. Next game up, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Detroit Lions. It's a pick 'em right now. This line has been everywhere. Jags is a favorite. Jags is a dog. Tough game. The Detroit Lions, how long can they keep this up? They're hot right now. They're trending upwards. The Jacksonville Jaguars, though, are the better team. And when both teams are playing their best brand of football, the Jaguars are the better team. They do have the better quarterback. The Jaguars do have more impressive wins this season. It's tough. This is very tough. I got nothing on this game. High total, 51. I wouldn't go against the over in this spot. Just looking at it from a face value, Detroit can score a ton of points when they're at home. The Jaguars come into that environment, and it's just like two young teams just shooting it out with offensive coaches and offensive styles. I wouldn't be surprised if this was like an up tempo game. So I guess the best look in this game would be the over, but not really sure. Next, we got the Cleveland Browns at the Houston Texans. The Browns are -8 on the road. Deshaun Watson's back. Real simple for me. It's the Houston Texans are nothing, and I don't really want to play the Houston Texans, so it's nothing for me. The Texans getting 8 at home. Last time they were getting 8 at home, it was against the Colts in like a big game. It was the first game of the season, and they covered that. Now they're getting 8 at home in their second biggest game of the season. Probably their biggest game of the season, actually. The game that Deshaun Watson comes back. Everybody's going to be amped up. The whole city's going to be going crazy, rooting for the Texans to win that game. Deshaun Watson's super rusty. I heard he hasn't been looking too good, and to expect him to come in his first game and like dominate, that's asking for a lot. So on a spread as big as this, the +8 Texans, that's the only way that I could look. Getting a home dog this big versus a quarterback who hasn't played it all this season, like if you're just going to take Deshaun Watson coming out the gate to cover a -8, good luck. That you're asking for a lot on the road in a highly emotional game. We saw what happened when Brady came back to New England. These games where it's like super highly emotional for the player and it's a lot of psychological angles. It's hard to just assume that these guys are robots and they're just going to put up amazing performances, or you got to expect the unexpected here almost. So the lean would be the Houston Texans in this spot, actually. And I don't really think taking Houston's not a bad spot. It's a good spot taking the Texans here. I just have no interest in doing so. Next game, we got the Green Bay Packers at the Chicago Bears. The Packers are -3.5. Aaron Rodgers should be in this game. I'm hearing that Justin Fields is going to be in this game. With that being said, the Bears have been looking nice as of late. More competitive than we expected them to be this season. But Aaron Rodgers just owns the Bears. And if there's ever going to be a time that the Bears get one, it's probably in this game. But just by default, I'm going to take the chalk and just say Green Bay -3.5. I just think that if Aaron Rodgers is going to do anything right this season, it's going to be beating the Chicago Bears and continuing to own them. So, yeah, that's the only thing the Green Bay has done all year long is just dominate the Bears. They haven't really done anything. They beat the Cowboys, but hey, their Bears win was the best thing for them this season, and maybe they do it again, and it's just like their one cool moment of the year. So Green Bay -3.5. Next up, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Atlanta Falcons. It's a pick 'em. On a surface level, I want to say you just take the Steelers. They're playing real good football. I like what I'm seeing out of Kenny Pickett. But the Falcons is practically a home dog. You're getting them at a pick. Earlier in this week, they were +1, I believe. You're getting pretty good value with the Falcons at home. They seem like they're due to win one. They played pretty well last week against the Commanders. They could have covered that game. So with this game, I really don't know what to do. Tough one. I guess my lean would actually be Atlanta at home. Getting, as a home dog or at a pick 'em. I guess my lean would be Atlanta in this spot. But two teams that have kind of been all over the place this season, and I wouldn't bet this game either. All right, moving on. We got a few games coming up that I really like. Got a lot to talk about in these games. I know the last few ones I was just like pass. But here with the Miami Dolphins +4 at the San Francisco 49ers. I love this spot for the San Francisco 49ers. The Niners -4. They just match up so perfectly against the Dolphins. The Niners will be the second official money pick this week. I've actually already put it out. Niners -4. If you could get a 3.5, that's great. We're actually seeing reverse line movement here. Everybody's taking the Dolphins, but the line is still moving towards the Niners. And that's because it's a pros Joe's game at its core. I'm not surprised by that in any way. The Niners just match up so great against the Dolphins. The Dolphins are an offensive team. It's raining in the Bay Area right now. I'm in the Bay Area, and it's going to be raining really hard at this Niners game tomorrow. We know the Dolphins are an offensive team, and it's going to be hard for them to move the ball in that passing game in these conditions versus a great San Francisco 49ers defense, one of the best defenses in the entire league, probably the best defense in the league, either the Niners or the Cowboys. So it's going to be a tall task for Tua. You also got the coach of the Dolphins going against Shanahan, McDaniel. He's Shanahan's. It's the teacher versus the student, and I'm gonna lean towards the teacher in this spot. I think Shanahan is gonna handle him the same way he was taking care of McVay every time out. And I think the 49ers, we saw them have a mediocre game against the Chargers, and what did they do? They went up against the Cardinals and they balled out. They covered as a favorite, which we normally don't like to take the Niners as a favorite, but they covered as a big favorite against the Cardinals, and my lean was the Niners in that spot. Then right after that game, they had a lackluster performance against the Saints where they shouldn't have covered. They played really bad football, and this is a well-coached team. They're not going to have back-to-back bad games. They're going to bounce back from that Saints game and ball out in this game against Miami, just like they played bad against the Chargers and then balled out against the Cardinals. So this is where the Niners cook. This is where the Niners get right. This is a Niners spot where they're a tough physical team, really good defense, and they're going to play well in these raining conditions where they could just run the ball super well versus a Miami team that we know everything they do is in the pass game, and this is Tua's toughest challenge yet. San Francisco 49ers defense, a coach that has the edge over his coach, and these tough conditions for, Tua, who's used to not playing in those. He's used to being in Miami and teams coming into Miami and having struggles playing in those conditions, and him being used to it. Now he's coming in the rain, and it's going to be a really tough one for the Miami Dolphins to overcome. I could see the 49ers potentially blowing them out in this game. If the Dolphins play well, they could keep it like relatively close, lose by a touchdown or something. But the top play of the week is the 49ers minus the 4. Next up, we got the Seattle Seahawks at the Los Angeles Rams. The Seahawks are -7 on the road. Look, I'm real close to just sticking with the two top plays, the Niners minus the 4 and the Jets +3. I'm real close to just sticking with those. If I was going to add another game onto the list, I told you guys that the Eagles was a real good spot in my opinion. I also like the Rams in this spot. I'm not going to touch it. It's kind of like the Texans game where you don't really want to take a team because they just have the potentiality to just completely drop the ball. We don't really know what we're getting out of this Rams team at this point, but McVay can draw up a run game. They have a mobile quarterback. They have running backs. And the Seahawks can't stop the run. We saw what the Raiders did to them. And if the Rams are able to run the ball and control clock and kind of dictate the pace of this game, as a home dog getting a touchdown or more, it's hard for me to fade them in this spot. It's hard for me to fade them for a Seattle team that I've been saying from the jump. This Seattle team, they're frauds. They're fraudulent. They're not as impressive as their record indicates, and we faded them with the Raiders correctly. And I told you guys, this Seahawks team against the Bucks, they weren't going to win that game either. It was the top lean that week. I should have ended up going official with it. I just don't like betting London games, but I told you guys this Seahawks team is overrated. And with the Rams getting 7 or more at home, once again, it's just too much. This Rams team, like the Texans, you don't know if they're going to completely drop the ball. So I'm going to avoid putting my money on them. But heavy lean Rams here. Rams is the smart side in this spot, I believe. Next game, I'm real excited to talk about this game. It's the Kansas City Chiefs at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Chiefs are -2.5 on the road. Look, earlier this week, this is why I record the videos later in the week so that way I could get all my thoughts completely wrapped around these games from top to bottom. Some people don't like to do that. They say they're overthinking. They don't want to overthink it. They just want to go with their gut. For me, I like to go through every single possible angle, try to give you guys the best possible look. And earlier in this week, I would have told you guys take the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals getting points like this at home, They're streaking into the playoffs just like last year. They beat the Chiefs twice last year. The Bengals are getting healthy. They're playing really good ball. They have the better defense. They have the better weapons. Joe Burrow, in my opinion, is probably the second best quarterback in football after Patrick Mahomes. So it's just the perfect spot to take the Bengals as home dogs. The line is all over the Bengals in this spot, but I just can't do it. I tell you guys all the time, I bet games on the stats and I bet games on the scenario. And the stats are all over the Bengals, but this scenario is conflicted. The Kansas City Chiefs are in this real weird spot, and I think it's super cool. They're in this weird spot where they're the villains and everybody hates them because they've been so good. But they also have this chip on their shoulder where they're kind of the underdogs because they don't have Tyreek Hill. And because of that, they want to prove everybody wrong and show everybody that they still got it. And that, hey, just because Tyreek Hill's gone doesn't mean we're not the best offense in the league anymore. It doesn't mean we're not the best team, or we shouldn't be the Super Bowl favorites. We're going to dominate the AFC no matter who's here. And as long as Patrick Mahomes is there, Andy Reid is there, and Travis Kelce, that group, they haven't lost a game in November or December ever. And they cover these spreads. When you give the Chiefs -1, -2.5, -3, the Chiefs cover these spreads. So it's really hard for me to take the Chiefs. So it's really hard for me to fade the Chiefs when they're going up against a team that they lost to twice last year. And the Chiefs have just been road warriors. Like, we took them when they went against Tampa. Everybody liked Tampa. We took them at Tampa, and they just destroyed Tom Brady and them. And that was playoff revenge for the Chiefs. Then we saw the Chiefs going up against the Niners, and it was at Niners, and we had the Niners, and the Chiefs just crushed them. And now the Chiefs are in another playoff revenge spot, getting their revenge back on the Bengals. And I don't see the Chiefs losing 3 in a row. I almost want to say lean Chiefs. Like, I don't know who covers this game. It's a real interesting game. If you told me pick who wins, I'm going to say the Chiefs win. But I don't know who covers. Maybe it's super close. This is super interesting to me. As the week has gone on, I've gotten closer and closer towards taking the Chiefs. It's a really interesting spot. I'm going to stay away because of all the points I brought up about the Bengals. But as this week has gone on, I just can see the Chiefs coming in here and just taking care of business. And that worries me, and that makes this game super exciting. And it's Patrick Mahomes, Reid, and Kelce. Like I said, -2.5 spread. I would avoid not taking this game at all. This is going to be a super fun one to watch, but I wouldn't touch it. Next game, we got the Chargers at the Raiders. The Chargers are +2.5 now. This is a game that if you were able to catch the Raiders when they were home dogs, you got all the value. When the Raiders were like +2 at home or +1 at home, if you got the Raiders when they were dogs, you got all the value. Now getting the Raiders at -2.5, Mike Williams is going to be out for the Chargers, but Keenan Allen is out there. It's still Justin Herbert. It's still Austin Eckler. It's still a bad Raiders defense. And, you know, it's a division game with two teams that play each other real tough all the time. And in week 1, we cashed out with the Chargers. I could see the Raiders just continuing to streak just like they have the past 2 weeks. We took the under in the Raiders-Broncos game a couple weeks ago and cashed. Unofficially, I had the Raiders in that game too and cashed. We took the Raiders officially last week against the Seahawks and cashed. Now this spot against the Chargers, I don't feel as good about it. Like, yeah, you could make the case that this is a Raiders spot. The Raiders run the ball really well, and the Chargers can't stop the run to save their lives. The Chargers also can't run the ball at all. So you could say the Raiders win in the trenches, but it's just not as good a spot as other spots have been for the Raiders. And I've been pretty on point with the Raiders this season. I had them under 8.5 wins to start the year. I'm always pretty on point with the teams in my hometown. But in this one, I don't know. I get bad vibes. The lean is the Raiders, but I get bad vibes in this one. Last 2 games, we got the Sunday night game. We got the Colts at the Cowboys. The Colts are +10.5. I don't know what to do with this. You say take the Colts because they're getting the value. They're getting all these points. Colts run the ball really well. But the Cowboys pass rush and what Micah Parsons and them can do to Matt Ryan and the turnovers that Matt Ryan's going to have in this game, and just the bad plays that he's going to have in this game, like you don't want to see it. And oh man, I can't tell anybody to take the Colts in this spot. I know they're getting a ton of points. I know the Cowboys let the Giants backdoor them on Thanksgiving, but I can't tell anybody take Matt Ryan going against this defense. He's just going to give this defense a ton of opportunities, and Jeff Saturday's probably in over his head. Cowboys getting this many points. Cowboys laying this many points, not ideal, but they are at home, and they could just front run on them. I think this game will be pretty low scoring. Maybe the under is a better look than the spread. 10.5, really tough stuff. I'm going to put out a lean and say the Cowboys just because Matt Ryan is going to get crushed in this game, but I wouldn't take 10.5. And last game up, we got the New Orleans Saints at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Saints are plus 3.5 on the road. Tom Brady has struggled with the Saints since he's joined Tampa Bay, but he did win the playoff game against them, and he did win the last game against them. So I do think his struggles against the Saints have been a little bit overblown. I do think that you want to fade Andy Dalton in prime time, and you want to fade Andy Dalton going against the Tampa Bay defense that maybe hasn't been as good as they're supposed to be, but it's still a good defense at the end of the day, and Andy Dalton's going to struggle going against them. So just by default, I know the sharp side, the pro side or whatever is going to be take the Saints, but you could have got the Saints at plus 6 earlier in the week. If you're looking at this game now and you see a 3.5, at 3.5, man, at 3.5, I'd have to say Tampa. If it goes down to 3, I might even go official on Tampa. It's tough because Tampa Bay hasn't shown us much quality this season, but they should have won that game against the Browns, and they did look good against the Seahawks, and this is the time where if there's ever going to be a time for them to turn up, it's now. And this just might be a fade. Like I said, this might just be a fade on Andy Dalton on primetime against this defense more than anything. This might not really have anything to do with Tom Brady and the boys on offense. So lean Tampa Bay. This is a game that we might end up getting to on Monday. We'll see. I just have to dive into it more. So once again, NFL Week 13, we got the Jets plus 3 and we got the Niners minus 4, the two top plays. Heavy lean towards the Philadelphia Eagles at minus 4.5. Heavy lean towards the Rams at plus 7. A lot of good games this week. It's going to be a ton of fun to watch. Good luck to everybody with your bets this weekend. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share the videos. I appreciate you guys. Until next time, peace.